performance is one of the last things we figure out, right? We are core, and I think we've announced this elsewhere. We are core targeting 30 frames per second bare minimum. Like that's the expectation. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames.
I don't even know how to start today's video, in all honesty. I don't know, man. It's disappointing, but definitely not surprising what I found out today. It is currently about 4:30 in the morning, because I don't know why I decided to stay up, but I did. And I was about to go to bed. Now, before I go to bed, I like to scroll on Twitter. And that's when I found out this news. According to the developers of Avowed, you do not need 60 FPS because it is a first-person game, and it's going to be a 30 FPS game. So I'm just going to play the interview here where the developer says that the game is going to be 30 FPS on the Series S and X, and when he says something stupid, I'll interject.
You could talk about this part right now, but I was curious about console performance, specifically the Series X. Can we talk frame rates at this time, or we're waiting a little?
Well, I'm
not yet.
Probably not the best person. Oh, sorry, talking off mic. I'm probably not the best person to talk about that. We can probably. We can probably.
Yeah, I mean, nitty gritty of it, performance is one of the last things we figure out, right?
Performance definitely shouldn't be the last thing you'll figure out. Now, it definitely shouldn't be the, most important thing, but you have to keep in mind that you're going to have a well-performing game while you make the game. Performance is very important, and a bad performance is going to turn a lot of people away. And what I find very, very disingenuous about this is the trailer was in 60 FPS, so why would you show off 60 FPS? And then launch the game at 30. Did you guys not learn anything from Redfall?
We are core, and I think we've announced this elsewhere. We are core targeting 30 frames per second bare minimum.
I doubt you announced it anywhere else because, man, I would have milked it for content. And you say the bare minimum is 30, but the bare minimum should be 60. Why? Because someone at Xbox promised us it was 60. And people went out under the assumption that games would run at 60. Now, if you want to get technical, we were promised 60 FPS in the Xbox One and PS4 generation. Now, you can come in here and say 30 FPS is fine, and you're okay with that, and that's cool, dude. More power to you. I hope you have fun with the game. But for me, if I'm promised something, I expect no less. If you sold me a car that you told me could go 300 miles per hour or 300 kilometers per hour and I got 150 miles per hour or kilometers per hour, I would be mad.
That's the expectation. It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames, and that allows us to get a lot juicier with VFX and lighting and all this other stuff, so...
You would have had a point if you were talking about a turn-based game or a top-down style game. You would have had a point there. 30 FPS is fine for those sorts of games. But the game being first person only makes 30 FPS worse, because you have to move around the camera and precise movements. The next thing you point out is you focused more on graphics, and that is something I cannot stand about modern gaming. Everything's just fucking graphics. Everywhere I look online, the majority of people say they prefer a well-performing game over a very well-looking game. So you might be wondering, why would developers still focus more on graphics if people would rather performance? And I think the answer to that question is it's easier to market graphics over performance.
It's a trade-off we opted to make relatively early, and we're really happy with that. I mean,
you might be happy with it, but the players aren't gonna be. In fact, while we're at it, let's go and find out what some people have to say about Avowed running at 30 FPS. I'm sure they'll be happy about it, right? So the tweet here says basically what we just went over, and let's read some of the replies. This guy says, the guy who made the post, it's a first-person game, you don't really need the 60 with a teardrop emoji, a crying emoji, and a skull emoji. The next guy says, another 30 FPS banger to rent for eternity with a meme saying it's no from me, or it's a no from me. This guy says, quote-unquote, targeting 30 FPS is a very worrying statement to make. Right underneath that, somebody says, are they stupid? Just, man, they're fucking relentless, bro. Right under that, I hate this, people need to play Horizon Forbidden West. That game is packed with foliage, incredibly sharp, the best graphics ever in a video game. And that's able to run at 60 FPS completely smoothly on the PS5. There's absolutely no excuse to not have it in Avowed. Right underneath that, somebody says first person is all the more reason it should be 60. Imagine playing a VR game at 30. This guy right here agrees with them. Wait, what? It being first person makes it even more important that it's 60. Underneath that, well, that's just killed my interest in Avowed. It's all good, I'll just wait an extra 8 months until it comes to PS5 with all the patches, bug fixes, and most likely performance enhancements. Under that, it's someone saying, for fuck's sakes, with some emojis. Underneath him, there's a guy adding his friend with some crying emojis. This guy added his friend and put some XDs. I didn't know people still did that. Under that, there's a guy who says, oh my god, with some laughing faces. Under that, fuck out of here with that, lol. First person is exactly why it needs to be 60 FPS. Starfield felt okay at 30, but it was noticeable coming off of a 60 FPS experience. You can the light leave? Oh, I think he means you can see the light leave their eyes when they heard that. This guy puts a clenching teeth emoji, ouch, at his friend and says, we got another one.
The game's running pretty smooth for how, visually dense it is.
I wouldn't put smooth and 30 FPS together, especially not in a first-person game. This is especially the case when you realize that a lot of people are used to playing at 60 or even 120 in a lot of game series on next-gen consoles, and then they're going to go to a game that plays at 30 and notice the downgrade in smoothness.
And that was always our goal. But as far as like a greater understanding of performance spec, we're still figuring all that out. It's one of the last things you do. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. Maddie, any other follow-up?
He says he's still figuring it out, which I hope he sees the reaction that people are having and decides to reconsider and change it for the benefit of the community. People really don't care about graphics all that much. I mean, look at the most popular games. Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, CSGO, Elden Ring. And that's not to mention that a lot of people in modern gaming are actually going retro. Like, over the past few months or so, I've been playing a lot of Borderlands, and not once did it ever occur to me that, this game's cool and all, but it needs better graphics. No, I think graphics peaked around the PS4 era. There's really not all that much need for improvement. Man, fuck, man. I mean, it's disappointing, but not surprising, especially considering it's made with Unreal Engine 5. If you enjoyed, leave a like. And if you didn't, leave a dislike and an angry comment. Peace.
It's a first-person single-player game. You don't necessarily need that 60 frames.